All right, that's been about a minute. We'll continue to let people in as they show up, but other than that, I would say let's get started. So everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Adam Dzaki. I'm with our product team here at Cyrusson. And if you haven't spoken to me before, or we haven't spoken before, we should talk more often. I'm responsible for our roadmap, handling feature requests, and I run a monthly event at the end of every month known as Technically Speaking, which is kind of just this open community call for all of our customers to come and chat with us, hang out for about an hour, and discuss features that we've recently released, features that we're soon to release, maybe collect some feedback and your thoughts. But more importantly, just to be able to discuss maybe some of the things that you're building or help that you're looking for, but gives you the opportunity to talk to other customers that are also using Tikit. And so you can cover everything from what you're doing in adaptive cards, maybe what kind of reporting you're doing in Excel and Power BI, open floor, open discussion, end of every month. If you've never heard of this event, well, let us know. You can actually just raise a question in the Q&A, which we'll get to how that works in a second, and we'll get you an invite. And today, I'm actually joined by someone else. His name is Ben Anderson from our customer success team. I'll let him introduce himself. I won't keep talking over him.
Sure, of course. Thanks, Adam. Hey, everyone. Very nice to be here today. My name is Ben Anderson. Yes, I'm a professional services consultant here at Cyrusson. Been recently doing some work with other customers in their Tikit OpenAI integration, and thought it'd be fun to come hang out and help with the webinar. So, thanks.
So Ben is going to be manning our Q&A today. So if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, feel free to just throw them into the Q&A. We'll answer them maybe throughout this where it makes sense, maybe save them to the end. If we don't have enough time, we will absolutely follow up with you and help get you sorted out. And that's really, that's a little bit about us. And I guess as far as the agenda goes, what I wanted to start with is I want to provide a brief update on our roadmap and discuss obviously then what's going on with OpenAI, ChatGPT inside of Azure and inside of Tikit. I want to get to a small announcement, just tiny thing. I guess I could have put it on the roadmap slide, but it's on the roadmap. That's the hint I'll give for right now, but we'll get to it later near the end. So I guess first things first, let's talk roadmap very quickly, and then we'll jump into this. So first things first, Service Catalog is out. It's live, and the next question always is, well, then what's next? When can we expect some of these other features to come out? Well, I have answers to those questions. So first things first, we are looking at delivering group chat. Well, probably within this month. Group chat is what we are positioning as a means to have enhanced collaboration and work on tickets directly inside of Teams without leaving Teams. This is going to take advantage of Microsoft's native group chat ability to where you can actually just converse inside of Teams and you can have your collaborators and other affected users all in a single chat experience. So more on that later, but again, we're looking to get that out later this month. Followed by that next month, we're looking for multi-turn cards. Now, this is a large requested roadmap item. We know people are looking for this. We are also starting to QA this as well. And with multi-turn cards, the idea is that we want to offer you and customers the ability to, well, decide what card comes next based on another card's previous answers. So if you can imagine an onboarding scenario where you say, I want to hire someone in HR or IT or legal, depending on the department you pick, maybe a second card is served and they have to fill out more information. And then the ticket is created / submitted. After that, another large roadmap item that we know people are excited for is custom properties. And with custom properties, you will be able to introduce your, well, very own custom properties to the core ticketing experience throughout all of Tikit. So whether you're in the agent portal or whether you're working in Teams, Cards, the agent portal will have custom properties as you choose to introduce them. So if you want to introduce a custom true false field, if you want to introduce custom drop downs, or just a text field like for a location, custom properties is going to let you do that. And related to that is that also, apart from being able to introduce those custom properties, is the ability to then report on them inside of Power BI and or Excel. And then, of course, we want to finish our Power Automate refresh. And as we're looking towards later the end of the year, is delivering on RBAC and permissioning throughout tickets so that you can decide who gets deflected what, who can see what on the service catalog, what templates can be chosen by which agents, which views which agents can see, and so on and so forth. A lot of scoping, a lot of RBAC, a lot of permissions inside of that we're excited to get to. Now, it goes without saying, I have a feeling that many of you on this call are excited for at least one or many, if not all, of these features. So we very much want to get them in your hands. That's what we have planned for the remainder of 2025, and also a loose idea of when we plan on delivering those things. So with all of that out of the way, with the roadmap out of the way, a little housekeeping, let's jump into why we're here today to talk about Tikit and OpenAI on Azure, so you can get that generative AI experience. Now, it's also probably worth setting the stage for the uninitiated, which that's okay. We all didn't know certain things at some point. What is the difference between OpenAI and ChatGPT and it being on Azure, and how does it integrate with Tikit, and how does all of this work? Now, if it doesn't go without saying, OpenAI on Azure is the same OpenAI that powers ChatGPT. It's probably an experience that I suspect at least one of you on the call is familiar with. And what I want to highlight is that by running OpenAI on Azure, you still have access to the same models that ChatGPT uses. So whether it be ChatGPT 5, the most recent model that came out, or 3.5, 4, 4.0, 4.0 mini, all of the models that you can run and use on ChatGPT, you can run privately in your own Azure tenant, so that all of your data stays with you. And this is really the first point that I want to touch on, which was a very intentional decision on our part of how we chose to integrate Tikit with OpenAI. Because by integrating with it on Azure, your data, your training, all of that stays with you and you alone. Nothing leaves your organization. So I suppose then the next question becomes is, how does this work inside of Tikit? What do I experience inside of Tikit? What does this generative AI experience feel like? Well, to do that, I'm going to flip some windows around here real quickly. Let's go over here. I'm gonna look for Ben to hopefully tell me when he can see it.
Yeah, looks good, Adam.
Awesome. So the very first thing I want to do is I actually want to start in our service catalog. This is where you can create knowledge. This is where you can manage your request offerings. This is where you can manage the templates that potentially get deflected to users when they're talking to Tikit Virtual Agent. And the first thing that I want to do is I actually want to search my service catalog for holiday. And I'm doing this intentionally because what I want to show you, what I want to demonstrate, is that I have no entries. I have no catalog items that refer to a holiday. Holiday, right? You can see that it's definitely not there. And next, what I want to do is I'm going to jump over to a chat that I have with Tikit Virtual Agent. You can see that I already brought this up, but that's okay. So I'll start this back over just so we can all see there's no funny business going on here. What are the company holidays? And yes, I typoed it. Should be okay. Let's see what we get back. And you can see that I actually return a generative-based response, again, from OpenAI in my Azure tenant based on my data. This all comes from that PDF, and that PDF is the employee handbook. Now, you'll notice that when we return a response, we have a mandatory disclaimer that AI-generated content could be incorrect. But we also include a citation to the file that provided this data. So you can also download your own files from your own environment and see where this information actually came from. Now, the next point that I want to bring up is, well, how did this work? Because again, I have nothing in my service catalog. So it came from OpenAI. Well, when does this actually work? When does this engage? Now, what I want to point out here is that this will only happen when we have no knowledge, when we have no catalog items found in our service catalog, nothing that we've created or built, which means that's when we're going to fall back to OpenAI. Again, in your tenant, on your data, with you and your respective data privacy. Now, we did this for two reasons. The first of which is that, well, you might want to return a form. There could be a series of questions or prompts that could be asked of Tikit Virtual Agent, and you want to ensure that you return a custom form first, like user onboarding or shared mailbox creation, or any other number of processes that you invent and you want someone to fill a form out for. And again, if no responses are found, then go to OpenAI. The second reason that we did this and how we chose to integrate this is that the use of OpenAI is a transactional cost on Azure. So we're also doing this as a means to help minimize spend, which means, well, more than likely, the next question that's on your mind, and we've heard from many customers, has been, well, then how much does this cost, right? Do I need agent licenses to do this? Should I expect a giant bill at the end of every month from Azure? Is this included in my Tikit subscription? How does the pricing work? Well, the very short answer is that you should expect probably to spend less than $100 a month on Azure spend to use the OpenAI integration. Now, the slightly longer answer, it depends. And it depends on, well, we would say four things in particular. First of which is, how often is OpenAI being engaged versus your own knowledge that you have created inside of your service catalog? Are you using the latest models from OpenAI, or are you using ones from a couple months ago? Again, GPT-5 just came out, but certainly you can use GPT-4, 4.0, 4.0 mini. All of those are options inside of Tikit, and those costs, change based on the current generation of model. The third point, what is the average length, the word count of the request that comes in? Like, if we had to count this, what does that average request size look like? And what does the average output look like? Because this all totals some transactional cost. And then last but not least, and I would argue that this is probably our fourth point, probably the most important one, but I admit difficult to answer, is you have to ask yourself, how many tickets do you feel are generated per month that could have been deflected by OpenAI, that could have been deflected by documentation that you have uploaded from your own department or perhaps from other departments into Tikit Virtual Agent? And as a follow-up to that, is that worth less than $100 a month? Now, we certainly think so. But what does that cost actually break down to? What am I spending a little less than $100 a month on for Azure spend with OpenAI? So let me go back to the slide. Azure OpenAI. And let's just jump over to this. So, Ben, are you getting any feedback? Is it just me?
Maybe. I'll stay muted in case.
Okay. Is the estimated resource cost? Like, what does it cost to actually deploy this integration? So the OpenAI integration for Tikit, again, runs on Azure in your respective tenant, so your data stays with you. And these costs are approximate, but pretty close to, well, last I checked in the Azure portal a couple hours ago. So storage is about 15 cents a gig. So again, how much documentation do you have? Do you have a gigabyte worth of documentation? More, less? Your cost for OpenAI transactions, you'll see, and it's not a typo, it's worth emphasizing, is fractions of a penny for a transaction. And then last but not least is the Azure Search Service. And this is the service that's actually responsible for processing all of the data that you upload and preparing it for OpenAI. And this is really just a flat monthly cost. So depending on how much you use OpenAI and how much it falls back to it, you could be spending close to 76, 78, 80. It could be challenging to actually raise this, but I'm not saying it's impossible. So again, please consult like Azure pricing and your own usage just to make sure. Now, the thing that we do see and that we have heard from customers that have deployed this is, what should I expect the first couple months to look like? What should I expect it to look like as time goes on? What we have found and what we've seen is that typically customers that deploy OpenAI will have a bursty, maybe high bill the first couple of months. And then as they begin to tune that knowledge back into Tikit, whether it be through catalog items such as knowledge or templates, customers tend to start reaching an equilibrium of sorts. And then it's kind of just it's an ongoing balancing act of what needs to be served in OpenAI and what can be served directly inside Tikit. But again, I think those are some good cost approximations, even if you're considering testing this out for a month. So let's see. That's an idea
If
of cost.
I could bring up a question maybe. Craig had a good one. He was asking about the difference between Copilot and OpenAI. If you have Copilot in your organization, is this the same or different?
Let me write this down. I will get to that later. Copilot versus OpenAI. Let's see. Where was I? So point is, this provides an idea of the cost and how to use it within Tikit Virtual Agent, what its experience like. But today, what we wanted to talk about and stuff that I wanted to show and get to and demo beyond just showing how the integration works and how it's experienced is how you can deploy it quickly today, perhaps arguably on this webinar, or maybe after this webinar. What I wanted to get to is, let's change some screens here. Is what I want to do is I want to use our one-click deploy on our knowledge base. Let me share my screen out real quick. Because I want to get OpenAI set up. I want to get this integration set up. I want to do it quickly. And what I want to do is, well, follow along. So inside of our knowledge base over at kb.syrison.com, if you were to search for Azure AI, you'll find an article by the name of Azure AI One-Click Deploy. I should add that there's a full video to go along with everything I'm about to say, and you'll probably recognize the person that's talking on it. You can see a little idea of here's what the response should look like. But to deploy this, all you actually have to do is click the Deploy to Azure button. And when you do that, assuming you have rights within your respective Azure tenant, you have the permissions necessary, you'll be brought into the Azure portal where all you have to do is choose the resource group that you'd like to deploy those three resources to, the storage account, OpenAI, and Azure Search Service. And then simply name them. Just give them a name. And then click on Next, Review and Create. And in about 2 to 3 minutes, this will all be set up inside of your Azure tenant. And when it's done, you will be able to be presented with this Outputs tab. Now, this Outputs tab is what you're going to need to paste into your respective Tikit settings window so that you can define how Tikit connects to your OpenAI instance inside of Azure. Now, I should add, this is from a previous deployment. These resources no longer exist, so I don't exactly have a concern showing what was once previously privileged information. None of this is valid anymore. So just a heads up in case you're, well, you know. So to save a little time, what I've actually done is I've actually already deployed this. And what I need to do is I need to finish configuring it because, like I said, if I have this set up, these are my 6 of my 7 inputs that I can paste over into OpenAI, the last thing I actually need is this thing called an index name. And so let's build that right now, and then we'll get over to how we can automate this. So inside of Chat Playground for OpenAI, what we need to do is we want to add our data. I want to add a data source. And I'm going to select the blob storage that I used that was generated from our one-click deploy. Again, all of this, every single thing I'm selecting in here comes from that one-click deploy. So if none of this looks familiar to you, that's okay, because again, all of it will be different when you deploy this. And the name of my index was Tikit01. So that's where that comes from. Now, again, I already have an index called Tikit01, so that's why that's there. And you can see that I'm going to set my schedule to hourly. So every hour, what's going to happen is that my OpenAI data is going to be retrained based on what has been uploaded into my storage container, uploaded into my storage account. Now, an hour might be a little too long for most. Maybe you have a lot of documentation you need to get uploaded. Maybe you have a lot of documentation you're going to be constantly uploading, and you always want this to be like on the top of its game so that whenever you're talking to Tikit Virtual Agent, you know, rest assured, about every 5 minutes, it has the latest knowledge available to it via OpenAI. So first thing is, how do we shift the hourly schedule to every 5 minutes? Because that is the very first thing we need to do to make this training faster, and also get us set up for SharePoint and OneDrive uploads. So while that's running, what I'm going to do is actually going to head back to our Azure portal. And again, here's my 3 resources, right? Again, the storage account, that's where all of my documentation is held. Azure OpenAI, that's what's going to return our generative responses, and our search service, which is going to prepare that data for OpenAI. So to change this to every 5 minutes, what I want to do is I'm going to head into my search service, right? Here's search service. Let's click. I'm going to go into indexers. You can see that it was last run 41 seconds ago. That's about when I clicked OK. And in my indexer, in the settings, you'll notice here's the schedule. Now, we said every hour in that previous window, and you can actually see that it's every 30 minutes with an interval of 30. Azure's interesting way of doing an hour. All I had to do is click this and click on 5 minutes, save. This now runs every 5 minutes. So now whatever documentation I upload is always going to be, well, current as of about 5 minutes ago. But now the next question is, how can I upload documentation into training so that it's always ready for Tikit Virtual Agent? Well, if you followed along previously with some of our manual deployment options, or you just started reading some of this documentation, it's possible that you could have seen, like, you have to go into the storage account, you have to go into the containers, you have to find the container, and then you upload files into this, and that's how it's trained. But if we're trying to bring together everyone's knowledge across departments, whether it be from HR, from accounting, from finance, from marketing, from IT, if we want to streamline that process, we can actually use Power Automate. And using Power Automate allows us to sync files from SharePoint document libraries or OneDrive folders. Same difference, doesn't matter. And again, the best part is that let's say HR and finance and accounting, maybe some of those departments aren't using Tikit yet, but they'd like their documentation to be available to Tikit Virtual Agent. Again, there's no additional cost for that. Simply by uploading their documentation, the only cost is when OpenAI is engaged inside of Tikit Virtual Agent. So how do we set up those automatic uploads? How can we do SharePoint and OneDrive and Power Automate? Well, quite simply, we could do it over here. So first thing I want to do is I have a OneDrive folder. I'm actually just going to drag a document over here. Let me upload a document called Apple VPN PDF. And then I want to get into my flows, what the flows are that make this possible. Now, not sure what you were expecting, but they're very simple. In fact, if I want to upload documentation from OneDrive, a OneDrive folder, and publish it into my OpenAI training, it's only 2 steps. One trigger, one action. And quite simply, using the OneDrive for Business trigger of when a file is created, specifically I'm looking at this folder called OpenAI Upload, right, which is my folder over here. But again, could be any folder. And I say include subfolders and for the content type. Anytime a file is created, it is immediately pushed into my blob storage account that, again, came from my one-click deploy. All of this information, excuse me, the first 2 at least, came from that one-click deploy. The name of my storage account, one-click deploy. The name of the folder path, one-click deploy. And as far as the file content goes, I get that from my previous OneDrive step. Very simple. So then the next question is, well, what if I don't want to use OneDrive? What if I want to use a document library in SharePoint? Well, the good news is it's near identical. It's one more step, but it's about the same thing. Anytime a file is created in a SharePoint document library, we're going to get the file content, and then we're going to create that file in our Azure storage account. If you look closely, it is the same exact action, create blob, but you'll notice just the name and the content change, right? Because it depends on where I got the file name and the content from on OneDrive versus SharePoint. And that's exactly how this works. This is actually all the steps that are required to automate this training. So we tune that schedule down to every 5 minutes, and we've said anytime files are created in a SharePoint library or inside of a OneDrive folder, automatically uploaded into training. We got 2 minutes to go, and I want to get to the question that was asked, which was we have Copilot in our tenant. Does that integrate? Which brings me to that one slide that I talked about, which was small announcement. So currently, Tikit only integrates with OpenAI on Azure in your tenant. And we did this initially, again, for the reasons that I shared. But what we will be doing and starting development on shortly is integrating natively with Microsoft Copilot. What we're looking at doing is bringing Copilot integration to the same level of parity that the OpenAI integration offers, and then gathering feedback from there. So, Craig, if you don't mind, I might reach out to you to discuss that, or anyone else who's interested, feel free to throw something in the chat. I want to make sure, did I miss any other questions? Let's see.
I did have one. I just
Oh yeah.
hopefully I was good on my response there, but talking about access levels and knowledge return.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So how is access security levels managed by documents that AI refers to? So anything that's uploaded into that OpenAI folder, Tikit Virtual Agent has the ability to return, right? So depending on the question asked, they could get that answer. What the Copilot integration could bring us is perhaps some degree of scoping around that. I want to be very clear, that's a could. As we start looking at that, right, that might be a nuance that Copilot grants us that OpenAI and it currently does not. But again, if you'd like to talk more about that, it'd be great to catch up with you and maybe like what some of your requirements are. All right, Craig, awesome, thank you. Okay, it's the bottom of the hour. We're out of time. I hope I've answered everyone's questions, gave you a quick little run through about like how to actually set up some of this training. We have documentation on all of this and also videos to go along with it. So if I went over something a little bit too fast, we have documentation on how to set up reoccurring training with those very same, those 2 identical Power Automate flows. How to change the indexer schedule is also in our documentation. But if you need help with any of this, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Because the last thing that I want to share, let me just go back to the slide deck as I'm talking about this, is if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at team@cyrusen.com. We would be glad to help you out. Again, Ben has said he's done a couple deployments. I've certainly overseen a couple myself. If you have questions on any of this, struggling with any of it, anything else you'd like to talk about, reach out to us. I'd say that wraps it for today. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Great. Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it.